Today is Tuesday, October 21, 2014, the 294th day of the year. There are 71 days remaining until the end of 2014. On this day in 1971, a gas explosion kills 22 people at a shopping centre in Clarkston, East Renfrewshire, near Glasgow, Scotland. The explosion is caused by leaking in a natural gas main in the road in front of shops. The gas accumulates for a time underground beneath Clarkston Toll Shopping Centre. The source of the spark or flame that ignites the gas, never determined. On February 11, 1972, the jury in an inquiry into the deadly explosion finds no person or persons to blame, calls the event an accident. The natural gas explosion is the equivalent of as much as 600 pounds of TNT. In its report on the incident, the Glasgow Herald says, despite prompt investigation by Scottish Gas Board employees when complaints were made of the smell of gas in some of the shops the day before the accident, no strong indication of gas was found. And it's thought that the gas was then accumulating in the space under the shops, about which even some of the tenants had no knowledge. When the explosion occurred on Thursday, October 21, which was cold and wet, 22 persons received injuries from which they died, and more than 100 others were injured. On October 17, 1869, the Cardiff Giant, one of America's most beloved hoaxes, is discovered. Well diggers Gideon Emmons and Henry Nichols, digging in Cardiff, New York in the Finger Lakes region, out back of Stub Newell's place there, unearthed what appears to be the petrified remains of a 10-foot tall man, anatomically perfect in every way except, gigantic and calcified, apparently from his time buried in the mineral-rich soil. One of the well diggers exclaims, "Well, I declare, some old Indian's been buried here." Stub Newell puts up a tent and displays his giant for the public, charging the curious a quarter each to enter the tent and inspect the giant, whose nakedness he presumably covers to protect the tender virtue of those among the female gender and small children who might enter the tent. Seeing as how the giant attracts crowds of people from nearby towns and from as far away as Buffalo, 2 days later, Newell doubles the entrance fee to 50 cents. And still the rubes show up at Stub Newell's farm. All well and good for Newell, except for the fact that the giant is a fake, carved out of a block of gypsum and aged with chemicals to give it that authentic fossilized corpse appearance, then buried and left to naturalize out back of Newell's barn until the two soon-to-be gobsmacked well-diggers come along. 1 year earlier, a cousin and business partner of Stub Newell, tobacco seller George Hull, an atheist by belief, gets into an argument at a Methodist tent revival, his wife drags him there, with the preacher about the passage in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. Hull allegedly spends the equivalent of some $45,000 to hire a Chicago sculptor to create his giant out of a block of gypsum he buys out in Iowa, telling miners he intends to create a memorial to President A. Lincoln, lately departed. When Hull starts making real money from exhibiting his giant in the tent there in Cardiff, he's approached by a syndicate from Syracuse, headed by Mr. David Hannum, who offers Hull and Stub Newell $23,000 in 1869 money, worth about $429K in 2014 greenbacks.
Sold, brother!
The syndicate moves the giant to nearby Syracuse, where it's an even bigger sensation, so much so that New York City showman and noted humbug Phineas Taylor Barnum offers the tidy sum of $50,000 to Hannum and his syndicate for the giant. It's a lot of money, no doubt, but Hannum's doing all right, making easily that amount in less than a month's time. So Barnum hires his own sculptor to create a fake copy of the fake Cardiff giant, telling his patrons the giant in Syracuse is the real fake, but his, Barnum's, is an authentic fake giant fossilized man, as documented in the book of Genesis. Hannum sues Barnum for besmirching his verisimilitude and takes him to court, where George Hull, who figures his hoax has gone far enough, meaning he's already lined his pockets sufficient enough to make his family comfortable for the rest of their days, admits to having commissioned the sculpture for the purpose of defrauding the gullible. David Hannum, the Syracuse Syndicate CEO, in reference to not only Barnum himself but to his own customers, tells the court, "There's a sucker born every minute." A quote often attributed to Barnum himself. On February 2, 1870, both giants are declared in court to be frauds, fakes, phonies, humbugs, and the judge tells Hannum he cannot sue Barnum for calling his fake giant a fake. What P.T. Barnum does say is this: nobody ever lost a dollar by underestimating the taste of the American public. From Rutland, Vermont, this is Rich Alcott speaking.